Amara adjusted the shimmering gold lace of her wedding gown, her heart pounding in joyful excitement. The sun lit up her face as she stepped into the courtyard, where family and friends were gathered to celebrate. Drums and singing filled the air, a symphony of tradition that made her feel both exhilarated and anchored in her roots. She spotted her grandmother, Mama Tola, smiling from the front row, hands clasped in prayerful joy. This was the day she had always dreamed of, a day of union, of promise, and of hope. Darian, her groom, stood at the altar in a crisp white shirt embroidered with delicate patterns. He wore it over black trousers tailored so perfectly that Amara could almost see the slight tremor in his legs. Whether it was nervousness or excitement, she couldn't tell. But one thing she did know, Darian was the man she loved. Over the past year, he had charmed her with his witty conversation, his spontaneous acts of kindness, and the way he always seemed to know the right words to calm her fears. Today, his handsome face was lit with a mixture of pride and anticipation. When the priest asked them to share their vows, Amara's voice trembled. "I promise to stand by you, Darian, in sunshine and storm. May our home be filled with laughter, truth, and understanding." Darian's vow was short but heartfelt. "I vow to love you, Amara, with all that I am. You are my home, my treasure, and my future." A collective sigh swept through the audience as they were pronounced husband and wife. The celebratory cheer was thunderous. Flower petals flew in the air, showering them in colors of pink, yellow, and white. Amara gazed up at Darian, tears brimming in her eyes. She could scarcely believe she was now married to the man who had filled her heart with dreams. Confetti and blessings rained down, and, for a fleeting moment, it seemed like nothing could ever shadow this perfect day. Yet, as they made their way through the joyous crowd, a tiny spark of unease flitted across Amara's consciousness. She couldn't place why. Perhaps it was the way Darian briefly avoided eye contact, or the way his smile faltered when he saw someone in the crowd. But in the glow of celebration, she quickly dismissed the thought. Today was her wedding day, and everything was perfect, or so she believed. That night, after a day filled with music and dancing, Amara found herself alone with her new husband in a bridal suite lavishly decorated with scented candles and a bed adorned with rose petals. The laughter of relatives had faded into the evening air, leaving only the gentle hum of the night. She felt a thrill pass through her at the thought of finally being alone with Darian. They had waited so long for this moment, savoring the traditional route of engagement and only minimal physical affection. Yet something felt off. As she approached him, he seemed distant, almost as if his mind was somewhere else. She brushed it aside as simple nerves. "It's been such a big day," she said, softly placing a hand on his shoulder. "Are you tired? Overwhelmed?" He looked at her, eyes clouded with an emotion she couldn't read. "I'm just a bit exhausted," Darian muttered, trying to muster a reassuring smile. "It's a lot, isn't it? All this attention, all these responsibilities." His hands were cold, despite the warmth of the room. Amara bent down to unlace her gold-embroidered shoes, wondering if other newlyweds felt this sort of tension. She glanced up to find Darian scrolling through his phone, something that struck her as unusual on their wedding night. Yet she didn't want to pry or start their first evening with suspicion. Instead, she patted the space beside her on the bed, inviting him closer. "Come here," she whispered. "Let's just talk. Tell me what you're feeling." He slipped into bed, wrapping an arm around her. The warmth of his embrace momentarily chased away her unease. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'm happy," he said, his voice faltering slightly. "I'm really happy, Amara. I've never felt so blessed." A surge of affection melted her lingering doubts. She told herself it was normal for both of them to be overwhelmed. Marriage was a big step, and neither had been through anything like it before. She nestled against his chest, choosing to focus on the softness of his breath and the rhythmic beat of his heart. After all, she was where she had dreamed of being, newly-wed, in her husband's arms, ready to begin a new chapter of life. Sleep soon claimed them, but in the back of her mind, a small, nagging question refused to rest. Why did Darian's hands remain so cold throughout their first night? Early the next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains of their suite. Amara woke up feeling a renewed sense of excitement. This was the first day of the rest of their life together. Stretching her arms overhead, she turned to see Darian sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand again. He wore a tight expression, as though something weighed heavily on his mind. "Everything okay?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. He looked up, startled, and quickly slipped his phone back into his pocket. Yeah, he said, his smile a bit forced. "I was just responding to some messages from work. They're asking about a meeting I was supposed to attend next week." Amara's heart sank momentarily. They had planned their honeymoon in a remote, picturesque town by the sea. She had been dreaming of this getaway for months, walking hand in hand on the shore, exploring hidden coves, basking in the glow of newlywed bliss. "I hope you won't have to postpone our honeymoon," she said, trying to keep her tone light. He exhaled as if steeling himself. "Actually, there might be a bit of a delay. I realized last night that my passport is missing. I usually keep it in the top drawer of my desk, but it wasn't there. I need to sort this out before we can travel." Amara frowned. "Missing? Are you sure? Maybe it's just buried under some paperwork." A sense of disquiet unfurled in her chest. "We've been so careful about the planning. When do you think you can get a replacement?" "I'll try to rush the process," he said. "It shouldn't take too long. In the meantime, we can still have a small break at home, right?" With a shaky smile, Amara nodded. She didn't want to spoil the tender atmosphere of their first day as a married couple by pressing the issue. However, as Darian headed to the shower, she lingered near the nightstand. The idea that he had just realized his passport was missing felt too sudden. They had talked about the honeymoon extensively. Wouldn't he have noticed sooner if his passport was gone? Trying to shake off her unease, she reminded herself that trust was the foundation of marriage. Surely, there was a valid explanation. A few days slipped by in a strange limbo. Their honeymoon plans were on hold, and Darian was frequently out of the house, claiming urgent work demands. Amara tried to be understanding. After all, he had responsibilities, and not all newlyweds could simply disappear for weeks. Yet each time he left, her heart clenched a bit tighter with unspoken questions. One afternoon, she decided to surprise him at his office. She packed a small lunch, tied it in a neatly wrapped cloth, and caught a cab downtown. She had never visited Darian's workplace since they got married, and she reasoned that perhaps a spontaneous visit would show her support and love. Arriving at the modest building, she greeted the receptionist with a smile. "I'm here to see Darian. He works in finance." The receptionist gave her a puzzled look. "Darian isn't in today," she said, checking a clipboard. "He hasn't come in all week, actually. We received an email that he's on urgent family business." "Are you sure you have the right place?" Amara's stomach churned. "Oh, yes, I must have made a mistake about the timing," she lied, forcing a laugh. She turned and left, her thoughts racing. If he wasn't at the office, where was he? Back home, she tried calling him. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Text messages went unanswered. The hours dragged on until late evening, when Darian finally returned. Amara confronted him the moment he stepped inside. "Darian, I went to your office today," she said in a shaky voice. "They said you haven't been there all week. Where have you been going every day?" His eyes flashed with annoyance before he composed himself. "I told them I needed personal time off," he replied, avoiding her gaze. "I've been busy sorting out some old family property issues." "It's complicated, Amara. I didn't want to worry you." She wanted to believe him, to trust him. But the shadow of doubt settled deeper in her mind. "You could have just told me," she insisted gently. "I'm your wife. I'm here to stand by you." He pulled her into a tight hug. "I know, and I'm sorry," he whispered. "I just wanted to handle it on my own. I didn't want to burden you right after our wedding. Please, trust me." Reluctantly, she placed her hands on his chest. "Okay," she said, though her voice quavered. "But next time, just tell me. I don't want secrets between us." Darian kissed the top of her head. "No more secrets," he murmured. Yet despite the reassurance, Amara couldn't ignore the nagging sense that something was very wrong. A week later, Amara strolled through the bustling open-air market near her grandmother's neighborhood. She carried a woven basket in her arms, eyeing fresh produce and spices. The cacophony of voices and the colorful stalls usually lifted her spirits, but this morning she felt an unshakable restlessness. She picked up tomatoes and tubers, absent-mindedly, her gaze wandering over the crowd as if searching for something familiar, or someone. Suddenly, she froze. In the distance stood a woman, tall and regal, dressed in a flowing red gown that contrasted sharply with the informal atmosphere. The woman's attention was fixed on Amara, her expression unreadable. Her dark eyes seemed to bore into Amara's soul from across the throng of shoppers. Startled, Amara looked away, focusing on the vegetables in her hand. But when she looked up again, the woman was still there. Amara swallowed hard. She couldn't recall ever meeting this stranger, yet there was a peculiar sense of recognition, like the faint echo of an old memory she couldn't place. Abruptly, the woman turned and disappeared into the crowd. Amara's curiosity spiked, and she found herself weaving through the stalls to follow the elusive figure. By the time she reached the far end of the market, the woman in red was gone. That night, she recounted the strange encounter to Mama Tola, who simply said, "Child, the market sees many faces. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was something. Always trust your instincts." Though Mama Tola's words were cryptic, Amara felt a jolt of anxiety. Over the past few days, her life had started to feel more like a puzzle with missing pieces. This woman in red, why did she feel so significant? Amara decided it was time to keep her eyes wide open. The following day, Amara dropped by her old neighborhood to visit a longtime friend, Kemi. They sat under a leafy mango tree in the courtyard of Kemi's family home, sipping ginger tea. The birds sang overhead, and the humidity clung to their skin. Conversations drifted from childhood memories to the uncertainties of adult life. "It's so strange," Amara admitted, swirling her cup absent-mindedly. "Ever since the wedding, Darian's been distant. And then there's this woman in red I saw at the market. She watched me like she knew me." Kemi leaned forward, concern etched into her features. "Amara, I've been wanting to say something, but I wasn't sure how. A friend of mine mentioned seeing Darian with another woman weeks ago, even before your wedding. But I brushed it off because I knew how in love you were." Amara felt a chill creep up her spine. "Another woman? Are you certain it was him?" Kemi nodded. "I didn't believe it at first, but my friend insisted. She said he was with someone, tall, elegant, wearing a striking red dress. She saw them enter a house together." Amara's thoughts immediately flew to the woman in red at the market. Was it the same person? "Why would Darian be involved with her?" she whispered, her chest tight with dread. Kemi's voice lowered as if afraid of being overheard. "Be careful, Amara. There's a rumor that he was married before, but no one has seen or heard from that woman in a while." Thunder seemed to roll through Amara's mind. Married before? How could that be? As she tried to process this revelation, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Darian, working late again. "Don't wait up." With trembling hands, Amara tucked the phone into her pocket and forced a smile. "I'll keep this between us for now," she told Kemi, though her heart was racing. "I need to figure out the truth." That night, as she walked home, the weight of Kemi's words pressed on her, a whisper from the past that refused to be silenced. Amara's suspicions compelled her to take action. She decided she needed to learn more about Darian's daily life, the one he lived outside of their home. Up until now, she had avoided snooping or prying, but the mounting evidence left her with little choice. As she tidied up the living room one morning, she found an envelope marked "Urgent." It was tucked behind the sofa, evidently misplaced. The return address was unfamiliar, but it made her heart pound, a name scrawled in neat handwriting, Nia. Before she could open it, she heard the gate squeak. Darian was unexpectedly home. Quickly, she shoved the envelope under a stack of magazines. He strode in, his face stern and distant. "We need to talk," he said, heading straight to the bedroom. Unease clawed at Amara as she followed him. What did he want to discuss? "Yes," she ventured, trying to steady her voice. He fiddled with the buttons on his shirt, refusing to make eye contact. "I've received a message from my extended family," he began. "I need to travel for a couple of days to sort out an inheritance matter. It's a family home that's finally being divided among relatives." Memories of her attempt to visit him at his office flooded back. "Another trip?" she asked. "I thought you were sorting everything out here in town." He shrugged, avoiding the question. "It's out of state, a place near the coast. I'll only be gone 2 nights." Amara couldn't mask her skepticism. "Will you let me come with you? I'm your wife, after all." Darian tensed. "It's complicated, Amara. This is more a family matter. We need to keep it private for now." Though her instincts told her this was another lie, she swallowed her objections, nodding reluctantly. "All right. But I want to see proof of this property. Can I at least know where it is?" He hesitated, then fished into his pocket, retrieving a small key. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "I forgot to mention this. It's for the old trunk in the storage room. If you need anything while I'm away, some old documents are in there. It includes details about the property." He left shortly after, claiming he had to pick up a suitcase from a friend. As soon as the door closed, Amara gripped the key, her pulse quickening. Maybe this old trunk held the answers she so desperately needed. Maybe it would explain the sealed envelope from a mysterious woman named Nia. For the first time since her wedding day, hope mingled with apprehension. She locked the door behind Darian and headed straight to the storage room, determined to uncover the secrets he was so desperately hiding. Digging through layers of dust and old boxes, Amara found the trunk pushed into a dark corner of the storage room. She fumbled with the key in the musty lock, her hands trembling with a mix of dread and anticipation. After a few tries, the lock clicked. She lifted the lid to find a stack of documents, photo albums, and letters. A faint smell of damp paper and aging leather wafted up, making her nose wrinkle. As she flipped through the documents, her mind spun. Deeds, receipts, certificates. Her eyes darted across official letterheads. Nothing seemed overtly suspicious until she came across a faded photograph tucked in a small envelope. It showed Darian standing beside a woman in a wedding gown. Her heart hammered in her chest. The bride in the photo was not her. The bride looked strikingly like the woman in red she had seen at the market. Amara's pulse raced, a dreadful realization creeping up on her. Darian had indeed been married before, and it looked recent. A date scrawled on the back of the photo confirmed it was less than a year old. Why had he never mentioned this? And what had become of this wife? Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was well past midnight, and Darian had sent a text message. "My flight leaves early tomorrow. I won't be back for a couple of days. Take care." The brief, detached tone made her stomach twist. She typed a quick reply. "When you return, we need to talk about us. Safe travels." She scrolled through her phone, returning to the message thread with Darian. Then she noticed something odd, a new conversation she hadn't initiated. It was brief but revealing. An unsaved number had texted multiple times in the last few days. The messages read, "Unknown. We need to meet before you leave. Darian. Not safe now. Will see you when I return. Unknown. This can't wait. Amara deserves to know the truth." A chill ran down Amara's spine. Whoever this unknown contact was, they were clearly discussing her. She quickly saved the number under unknown caller, and, with trembling fingers, sent a message. "Who is this?" "This is Amara." Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the phone vibrated. The reply read, "I'm the woman Darian left behind." Heart thudding in her chest, Amara typed back, her breaths ragged. "Are you the woman in red?" Another pause. "Yes." "I am Nia. We need to talk." Amara stared at the screen, her mind swirling in confusion and dread. Darian's secrets were unraveling faster than she could comprehend. She had found proof of his previous marriage, and now the woman he left behind was reaching out. Before she could respond again, a second text from Nia appeared. "Meet me at Eco Gardens tomorrow at noon. No one else can know." Amara gripped the phone as if it were a lifeline. She was torn between fear and a burning need for answers. She typed a single word, "Okay," and hit send. For the rest of the night, sleep eluded her. She kept replaying the image of the wedding photo in her mind, along with the cryptic messages. If Darian was truly living a double life, then everything she thought she knew about her own marriage was about to collapse. The next morning, with tired eyes and a knot in her stomach, Amara visited Mama Tola before heading to her secret meeting with Nia. Her grandmother was in the courtyard, wearing a faded print dress and humming a traditional lullaby. Warm sunlight spilled across her wise, deeply lined face. "Grandma," Amara began, her voice tight, "I have something to tell you." She hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I found out Darian was married before. I'm supposed to meet this other woman today." Mama Tola's lips thinned. "I felt it, child. There's a darkness around your marriage that I can't explain. You must be careful. Lies have a way of poisoning the heart." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "What should I do? I don't even know what she wants." "Listen," Mama Tola said, placing a gentle hand on Amara's cheek. "Hear the woman's truth. But don't let bitterness blind you to what you must do next. We come from strong women. A woman who knows her worth doesn't stay wounded." Amara nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She felt the warmth of her grandmother's words fill her with a spark of courage. No matter what she discovered, she vowed to keep her head held high. With that resolve, she made her way to Eco Gardens, her heart pounding with anticipation for the answers she both feared and needed. Eco Gardens was an expansive park known for its lush greenery and winding paths. Amara arrived just before noon, eyes scanning the open field for any sign of Nia. Her palms were clammy, and she found herself unconsciously smoothing out the folds of her ankle-length skirt as she walked past flower beds and couples lounging on benches. The tension was palpable. Finally, she saw her. The same tall, regal woman in a flowing red dress, this time paired with a simple shawl draped around her shoulders. Nia stood by a stone fountain, gazing into the trickling water. Her posture was tense, as though she too anticipated a confrontation. Amara's steps felt heavy as she approached. For a moment, she was overwhelmed by the memory of that photograph, Darian's arm around Nia, smiling on what appeared to be their wedding day. Clearing her throat, she spoke softly, "Nia." The woman turned. Up close, Amara could see the faint shadows under her eyes, the strain etched into her features. "Thank you for meeting me," Nia said quietly. "I wasn't sure you'd come." Amara inhaled sharply. "I need to know the truth. Everything." Nia glanced around to ensure they were alone, then gestured for Amara to sit beside her on the edge of the fountain. "Darian and I married a year ago," she began, voice trembling. "It wasn't a public wedding. My family didn't approve, so we did it quietly. But soon after, he changed. He started leaving at odd times, getting into arguments, hiding his phone. Then, one day, he vanished without a trace. I only learned he was marrying someone else, you, when I tracked him down at your wedding venue." Amara listened in stunned silence. Each word felt like a hammer blow to her chest. She struggled to reconcile the Darian she knew, thoughtful, charismatic, seemingly dedicated, with the callous man Nia described. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Amara asked, her voice shaking. "I was scared. Embarrassed. I thought maybe I had driven him away by not trusting him," Nia admitted, eyes glistening with tears. "But I had to warn you. You deserve to know who you've married." A swirl of betrayal and confusion boiled inside Amara. "So, your marriage to him, is it legally recognized?" she asked, her throat tightening with dread. Nia sighed. "In the eyes of the law, yes. We registered our marriage in a small municipality, but I never got a final copy of the certificate. Darian held on to it. Now I don't even know if he kept that record." Amara's mind raced. If Darian was still legally married to Nia, what did that make her? A second wife? A victim of bigamy? She forced herself to stay calm. "What proof do you have?" Digging into her purse, Nia produced a folder. Photos, letters, Some text messages, she said, handing them to Amara. I'm trusting you with these. Do what you must. Amara leafed through the evidence, each piece confirming the unthinkable. Darian had deceived them both. She swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. Thank you for telling me, she managed. Nia reached out, placing a hand on Amara's shoulder. He's dangerous in ways you might not realize. But we have to be smart. Think carefully before confronting him, or he'll slip away again. Despite the anguish ripping through her chest, Amara squared her shoulders. I won't let him take advantage of me. Not anymore. They parted ways, both women visibly shaken but bound by an undeniable truth. They had both been victims of Darian's betrayal. As Amara walked away from Eco Gardens, she felt a peculiar mixture of heartbreak and fury. Darian had deceived her, and now she carried the weight of that deception like a wound she could no longer ignore. That evening, Amara sat alone in her living room, the folder of Nia's evidence spread out on the coffee table. 1,000 questions whirled in her mind. What if Darian tried to lie his way out of this? What if the marriage was a con from the start? With trembling hands, she picked up a copy of what appeared to be an official marriage document. It bore Darian's full name, alongside Nia's name and signature. The date was just 8 months prior to her wedding with Darian. A wave of nausea surged through her. She hadn't been simply tricked. She was essentially the second bride in what appeared to be a web of deceit. The ceremony that had been the happiest moment of her life was now tainted by the realization that her union was, at best, built on a lie, and at worst, legally invalid. Anger flared in her chest, coursing through her veins, battling the heartbreak that threatened to overwhelm her. She recalled Nia's advice to stay calm and strategic. If she confronted Darian without evidence, he might vanish again. If she wanted justice, or at the very least, the truth, she had to gather irrefutable proof and plan her moves carefully. Yet her emotions screamed for immediate action. How dare he do this? Later that night, she made a decision. She would call Nia and propose a plan. She needed an ally, someone who shared her betrayal and fury, and that someone was the other bride. If they worked together, maybe they could expose Darian and prevent more victims in the future. With her heart racing, she sent a text message to Nia. I have an idea. Meet me tomorrow at Mama Tola's house. Within minutes, Nia replied. I'll be there. Amara stared at the phone, her mind reeling with the reality of her situation. She was a second bride, caught in the crossfire of a secret life her husband had built. Suddenly, her wedding photos on the wall felt like a mockery. She walked over to them and gently took one down, the image of her and Darian beaming with what she had once thought was pure love. A tear slid down her cheek as she placed the frame face down on the shelf. If Darian believed she would stay quiet, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. Nia arrived at Mama Tola's modest home in the early afternoon, wearing a simple blouse and skirt. Gone was the dramatic red dress, replaced by an air of quiet determination. Mama Tola greeted her politely, recognizing the pain behind her eyes. After offering Nia a seat and a cool drink, Mama Tola slipped out of the room, giving the two younger women space to talk. Amara wasted no time. I want him to pay for what he did to both of us, she began, voice barely concealing her anger. I'm not just talking about revenge. I'm talking about making sure everyone sees who he really is. This can't happen again, to us or anyone else. Nia nodded solemnly. I agree. But how do we do that? He's slippery. He'll lie his way out if he can. Amara pursed her lips, recalling how smooth Darian had been at manipulating her questions. We need to corner him with evidence he can't deny. And we need to bring in people who'll hold him accountable. His family, my family, maybe even the authorities. The more people who know, the less he can hide behind excuses. Nia took a deep breath. I have some texts and voice recordings, but they're from months ago. Do you think they'll be enough? It's a start, Amara said. We can gather what we have, photos, messages, even eyewitness accounts. I can't confront him alone. He'd just run. But if we do this at a family meeting, with elders present, he'll have no choice but to face us. Nia's face softened with gratitude. I've felt so alone all this time. I'm sorry you had to be dragged into this. Amara looked at her, realization dawning that they were both victims, wives who had been kept in the dark. We'll make him answer for this, she said, extending her hand. Deal. Nia clasped her hand firmly. Deal. From the hallway, Mama Tola's voice drifted in, calm and reassuring. You two are stronger together. A snake can only hide in the dark for so long. Amara caught Nia's eye, and they exchanged a determined look. For the first time since learning of Darian's deception, Amara felt a spark of hope. They had a plan, and they had each other. The fight was just beginning, but at least they would not fight alone. Soon after their meeting, Nia returned with a manila folder brimming with details from her marriage to Darian. Pictures of the ceremony, text message transcripts, even a worn-out wedding program. Amara provided her own wedding file, including her official marriage certificate and photos from her elaborate ceremony. The grim truth was laid bare. Both marriages were documented, valid, and recognized by different jurisdictions. If someone else had told Amara a story like this, she would have struggled to believe it, but now she was living it. They spread the documents across Mama Tola's dining table, carefully annotating dates. It was glaringly obvious. Darian had orchestrated 2 weddings within the span of a single year. As they sifted through the evidence, they also discovered an uncanny pattern in his text messages. He used the same sweet lines, the same hollow promises to both women. I used to think that was real love, Nia said bitterly, pointing to a text where Darian wrote, You are my sun, my moon, my everything. Turns out it was just a script. Amara clenched her fists. And to think I believed every word he said about me being his first and only. What a liar. Just then, Mama Tola entered, eyes filled with sorrow at the sight of the mound of evidence. My girls, you both have been wronged by a heartless man, she said softly. You have the proof now, yes, but what will you do with it? Amara glanced at Nia, then looked at her grandmother. We're going to organize a family meeting. We'll invite Darian's parents, my parents, and close relatives. We'll lay everything out. Mama Tola nodded, her expression resolute. They will come to our home next week for a celebration. Let's call it a post-wedding gathering, yes? Darian can't refuse an invitation from his in-laws. When everyone is assembled, you'll present your evidence. Amara's stomach fluttered at the idea. It was bold, direct, and fraught with emotional landmines, but she saw no other way. Yes, she agreed. We'll show them who Darian really is. Nia swallowed hard. He'll try to twist everything, or maybe even leave before we can reveal the truth. Amara placed a reassuring hand on Nia's shoulder. We won't let him. This time, he faces both of us, and the lies end here. In that moment, the 2 women and Mama Tola solidified their alliance. Surrounded by damning documents, they were more determined than ever to expose Darian's double life. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of their families, and possibly go far beyond anything they could predict. The morning of the family meeting dawned bright and clear. Amara woke up feeling a mixture of anxiety and resolve. Mama Tola's yard was filled with rows of chairs under a makeshift canopy. Big pots of stew simmered over open fires, and relatives arrived in colorful attire, anticipating a joyous post-wedding gathering. Darian's parents had traveled from their village, as had some of Amara's extended family from out of town. Everyone was eager to celebrate the newlyweds they believed were happily in love. Amara and Nia had agreed that Nia would arrive discreetly, staying out of sight until the crucial moment. Amara paced the veranda, heart pounding, waiting for her husband to show up. Darian, ever the performer, arrived wearing a pressed shirt and an almost nervous smile. He greeted the relatives warmly, yet his eyes darted around as if he sensed something amiss. When the time was right, Mama Tola rose to address the gathering. She welcomed everyone and thanked them for coming, praising the unity of both families. Then she signaled to Amara with a subtle nod. Taking a deep breath, Amara walked forward, her voice trembling at first. Thank you all for being here. There's something very important we need to discuss. Darian, there are things you've been hiding from us, from me. Puzzled whispers rippled through the crowd. Darian's face paled. Amara, what are you talking about? He tried to laugh it off. Is this some kind of joke? Her voice steadied. This is no joke. Nia, please join us. Head swiveled in confusion as Nia stepped from behind a curtained area. Gasps punctuated the air. She was not a member of Amara's family, so why was she here? Darian's eyes widened. What are you doing here? His voice cracked, betraying his panic. Nia stood tall. I'm here to reveal the truth. That you married me first and then abandoned me to marry Amara, without divorcing me. A stunned silence fell over the gathering, broken only by the rustling of skirts and the shuffle of feet. Darian's mother let out a soft cry of disbelief. His father looked furious, demanding explanations. Amara's relatives began murmuring to each other, trying to make sense of the bombshell. Amara stepped forward, her heart pounding like a drum. We have proof. Marriage certificates, wedding photos, messages. You've lied to both of us, Darian. Under the watchful eyes of their families, Darian's confidence appeared to shatter. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Suddenly, he bolted, trying to escape the confrontation. However, several male relatives blocked his path, forcing him to face the crowd. Caught with nowhere to run, Darian stammered. It's not what it looks like. I can explain. But the tide of revelation was too strong to be contained. For the first time, Darian found himself cornered, every lie laid bare for all to see. The truth was out, and there would be no easy way back for him now. A hush fell as Darian stood in the middle of the makeshift assembly, all eyes fixed on him. His parents, once beaming with pride for their son's wedding, now looked mortified. Amara's family watched with anger and disbelief. In the corner of the yard, Nia's hands trembled despite her calm facade. Darian cleared his throat, desperately trying to regain composure. Listen, everyone. I was forced into that first marriage. I didn't want to be with Nia. It was her family pushing me. I didn't know how to escape. I felt trapped. Nia's eyes blazed. Lies. My family never approved of you. I went against them to marry you because I believed in us. Don't you dare twist the story. Amara's voice sliced through the tension. What about me, Darian? Why marry me if you were already legally wed? Darian's gaze flitted around, searching for a sympathetic face. I loved you, Amara. I wanted to start fresh. Nia and we were separated. I was going to finalize the divorce, but time slipped away. Then the wedding with you happened faster than I expected. A bitter laugh escaped Nia's lips. A divorce? You never served any papers. How was I supposed to know we were separated? You just disappeared. Amara's uncle spoke up, his voice stern. This is bigamy, Darian. A serious offense. You can't just brush it aside as a misunderstanding. Seeing the crowd turning against him, Darian attempted a final deflection. But the second wedding was just customary, right? The official paperwork isn't all final yet, is it? Amara reached for the folder on a nearby table. Actually, it is. We filed the paperwork at the district court. You knew that because you signed it. Don't pretend ignorance now. She handed the documents to her uncle, who confirmed the validity with a grim nod. Darian's excuses crumbled under the weight of undeniable evidence. His chest heaved with panic as he realized there was no narrative he could spin to save himself. In a matter of moments, his carefully crafted charade had been dismantled. Nia, tears glistening, stepped forward. Why? She asked, her voice breaking. Why do this to both of us? He couldn't meet her eyes. For once, the silver-tongued manipulator had no words. Silence hung in the air, charged with betrayal, heartbreak, and anger. Whether he was motivated by greed, lust, or some twisted desire for control no longer mattered. The truth was exposed, and everyone present could see the man behind the mask. Amid the chaos, a hesitant voice piped up from the back of the crowd. Jordan, Darian's childhood friend, stood there, looking torn between loyalty and conscience. He stepped forward, eyes downcast. Amara, Nia, everyone, Jordan began, voice trembling. I can't keep silent anymore. Darian is my friend, but I know about his past. I just never imagined he'd do something this brazen. Darian stiffened. Jordan, don't you dare. But Jordan continued, unflinching. Years ago, Darian pulled the same stunt in another country. He married a young woman while still being involved with someone else. That time, he managed to pay her off to avoid legal troubles. I was there, and I saw everything. A collective gasp rolled through the gathering. Amara felt her knees weaken. Could Darian's deceit be even more widespread than they imagined? Nia pressed a hand to her mouth, horrified. Jordan swallowed hard. I kept hoping he'd change, that he wouldn't do something like this again. But when I heard he'd married someone else while still technically married to Nia, I knew it was happening all over again. He met Amara's eyes with an apologetic gaze. I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner. I convinced myself it wasn't my business. Fury flared in Darian's face. You were supposed to be my friend. How could you betray me like this? Jordan turned to him, sadness overshadowing any lingering loyalty. Because what you've done is wrong, Darian. You've hurt innocent people who loved you. I can't be silent anymore. Tears pooled in Amara's eyes, half from rage, half from heartbreak. Darian had a pattern of manipulation stretching back years. This wasn't some impulsive mistake, it was a twisted lifestyle. Nia looked shell-shocked, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had suspected betrayal, but not the depth of Darian's predatory behavior. Mama Tola stepped in, voice trembling with controlled anger. This is enough. You, Darian, have brought disgrace upon both families. You lied to Amara, and you lied to Nia, and apparently to another woman before them. She shook her head. We will not let you continue. Darian's shoulders slumped in the face of universal condemnation. No one came to his defense now that Jordan had revealed the full extent of his deceit. The man who once charmed everyone in the room was now isolated, consumed by the ruin he had sown with his own hands. After the disastrous gathering ended, Darian's family whisked him away, too ashamed to face Amara's relatives any longer. In the days that followed, the phone calls and text messages poured in like a deluge. Cousins, uncles, aunties, and family friends seeking clarity about what had transpired. News traveled fast, especially with such a scandal, and everyone wanted answers. Meanwhile, Amara and Nia kept in close contact, determined to see this through. They knew Darian would try to salvage whatever he could of his reputation. True to form, he tried calling Amara late at night. She let it ring, her heart pounding, but she refused to pick up. The next morning, she received multiple voice messages, all variations of the same plea. I made a mistake, Amara. Please forgive me. Let's talk. But Amara was long past the point of naive forgiveness. She hatched a plan with Nia. Having overheard Darian on the phone about an upcoming business trip, she guessed he might try to slip away without facing further consequences. They decided to use that information to their advantage. He thinks we're going to talk things over, maybe let him worm his way back, Amara explained to Nia as they sat in the living room. But we'll give him a rude awakening instead. They arranged for Nia to be present when Darian came to collect his luggage at Amara's house. Amara would lure him with a conciliatory text, something like I'm ready to talk. Come pack your things so we can have space to think. Darian, likely relieved at any sign of reconciliation, would walk right into their trap. Nia nodded, her eyes steely. I'll wait in the kitchen. When he starts giving you his sob story, I'll come out with my phone recording everything. We'll make sure he can't deny or twist it later. It was a risky plan, but desperation drove them. Too many times, Darian had spun elaborate lies. If he attempted more manipulation or threatened them, they wanted tangible evidence to take to the authorities, or even publicize if necessary. Amara sighed, exhaustion mingling with resolve. Let's do it. I'm done playing his game. They sent the text. Darian replied almost immediately, I'll be there at noon. The trap was set, and the two women prepared themselves for the final showdown, each driven by the betrayal that had shattered their lives but also bound them in an unlikely alliance. Noon arrived under a scorching sun. Darian appeared at the gate, wearing a careful mix of contrition and confidence. He carried a duffel bag, presumably to pack whatever remained of his belongings. When Amara opened the door, she gave him a tight-lipped nod, stepping aside without a word. "So," Darian began, placing his bag on the living room floor, "thank you for letting me come. I want to explain." But Amara cut him off. "Your things are in the bedroom," she said coolly. "I set them aside. Take them and leave." Darian flashed a pained expression. "You're not even going to listen to me? I know I messed up. It was complicated. But my love for you is real." Amara's stomach churned. She could almost laugh at the audacity. "You've said enough. I gave you my trust, and you shattered it. You gave me nothing but lies." He moved closer, lowering his voice in a semblance of sincerity. "Let's just talk, please. I'll tell you everything. I promise we can work through this. You know we were happy before." At that moment, Nia stepped into view from the kitchen, phone in hand. Darian froze, his eyes flickering with anger. "What is she doing here?" he spat. Nia spoke calmly. "Collecting evidence, in case you threaten or lie again. Now, kindly pick up your things and go. This is no longer your home." Realizing he was outnumbered and being recorded, Darian's composure cracked. He advanced on Nia, voice shaking with rage. "How dare you? You were never supposed to come here. This is between me and Amara." Amara stepped between them, heart racing but unafraid. "It's between all of us. Now get your luggage and leave before I call the authorities. And trust me, I will." Fuming, Darian stomped into the bedroom. Moments later, he emerged with clothes, documents, and a few personal items stuffed haphazardly into his bag. Amara could see the fury radiating off him, but he said nothing as he marched toward the front door. Before he exited, he turned to glare at her. "You'll regret this," he muttered through gritted teeth. Amara inhaled sharply, refusing to give in to fear. "No, Darian," she said, her voice resolute. "You will." He disappeared through the door, slamming it behind him. Amara's knees buckled, and she sank onto the sofa, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Nia, still recording, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "He's out." Amara nodded, tears of relief and heartbreak mingling on her cheeks. For the first time since the wedding, she felt an unburdening, as though the toxic lies had finally been cast out alongside Darian's belongings. Their path to healing was still long, but the first decisive step had been taken. News of the confrontation spread rapidly, especially in the era of smartphones and social media. Photos from the family meeting found their way online, accompanied by whispered rumors and anonymous tips. Friends of friends began posting about the scandal, popular finance guy discovered with 2 wives. Community outraged at wedding deception. Amara woke up one morning to a barrage of messages on her phone. An old classmate had forwarded her a viral post about Darian's double marriage. The comments ranged from shock to ridicule, some condemning Darian's behavior while others displayed pity for Amara and Nia. It was overwhelming to see her private pain turned into public gossip, but she also felt a strange sense of vindication. At least the truth was out there. Nia called soon after, her voice tinged with anxiety. "Have you seen what's happening online? My friends back home are sending me links. People are sharing pictures of Darian at both our weddings side by side." Amara sighed. "It's all over social media. I guess this is what it means for a story to go viral." "Are you okay?" "Honestly, I'm a mess," Nia admitted. "I never wanted to be in the spotlight like this. But if it exposes Darian for who he is, maybe it's worth it." Amara glanced around her now quiet home. "He threatened me before he left," she said. "I'm worried he might lash out." "Do you think he'll try anything?" Nia asked, concern evident. Amara paused. "Given his arrogance, he might. But I'm saving every threatening message and comment. The more he tries, the deeper he digs his grave." She rubbed her temples, exhaustion tugging at her. Meanwhile, I need to figure out my next step. Our marriage was a sham, but the legalities are murky. I'm here for you, Nia offered. Whatever you decide, we'll handle it together. Despite the chaos of public scrutiny, a slender thread of solidarity emerged between the two women. Their bond, forged in betrayal, was now fortified by the necessity of survival in the harsh arena of viral gossip. They were both victims, but together they might just come out stronger, and maybe even help others in the process. In the wake of the social media storm, Darian's family found themselves at the center of stares and whispers in their village. His parents, once proud of their son's accomplishments, now faced shame that they were unequipped to handle. Rumor had it that their home was besieged by neighbors and relatives seeking explanations or simply reveling in the scandal. Amara's phone rang one afternoon. She recognized the caller ID, Darian's mother. With a trembling hand, she accepted the call. "Amara," came the hesitant voice on the other end. "I know my son has hurt you. I'm ashamed to even ask, but can we meet? Your father, your mother, and we need to talk about the wedding that never should have happened." Amara felt a twinge of pity for the older woman. "Yes, we can talk. But I won't hide the truth anymore." Darian's mother sighed. "I understand. We only want to find a way to make amends for the disgrace our son brought upon your family. My husband is even talking about disowning him if he doesn't come clean." A surge of conflicting emotions swept through Amara. This was the same woman who had blessed her union, who had welcomed her with open arms, yet also the mother of the man who had shattered her life. "Let me check with my parents," Amara managed. "We'll see if we can arrange a time." They ended the call politely, leaving Amara drained. Later, she joined Mama Tola and her parents in the living room to relay the message. Her father's jaw tightened at the mention of Darian's parents. What good will it do to meet them now? The damage is done. Mama Tola placed a calming hand on his shoulder. Sometimes, closure comes from hearing apologies and taking them for what they're worth. It won't fix the past, but it might help Amara move forward. Her mother nodded quietly. "Fine. We'll meet them. But no more illusions. Our daughter won't be pressured into any so-called reconciliation with that man." And so it was decided. The following week, Darian's mother and father came to Amara's home, eyes full of regret and sadness. They offered what apologies they could, explained that they never knew about Nia, and insisted they would cut ties with Darian if he refused to make things right. It was a somber meeting, filled with tears and unanswerable questions. Amara accepted their apology but made no promises. As she watched them leave, she wondered if Darian felt any remorse at all. Perhaps it didn't matter. The threads of trust had already been severed, and no amount of family contrition could weave them back together. With the dust settling from the confrontation and viral attention, Amara and Nia realized they both needed a fresh start, physically and emotionally. After discussing various possibilities, they decided on a bold move. They would share a small apartment. The idea was unconventional, two women who had unknowingly shared a husband, now living as supportive friends, but it also felt like poetic justice. They found a modest two-bedroom place overlooking a bustling street market. While packing her belongings, Amara felt a mix of sadness and relief. She was leaving behind the house she had dreamed of filling with children's laughter and family memories, but that dream had turned sour. Now, a new chapter beckoned, one free of Darian's lies. They spent the first week painting the living room walls, using bright, inviting colors. It felt therapeutic to create something new out of the wreckage. One evening, as they took a break from painting, they sat on the balcony, sipping ginger tea. "I never imagined we'd end up roommates," Nia remarked, laughing at the absurdity of it. "Life can be so unexpected." Amara smiled, gazing at the city lights. "It's still surreal. But in a strange way, I'm grateful to have someone who truly understands what I went through." They continued talking late into the night, sharing stories about their childhoods, their aspirations, and the lessons they'd learned. Painful as it was, they also recognized that Darian's betrayal had led them to this unexpected sisterhood, a sisterhood rooted in empathy, resilience, and a determination never to settle for deceit again. Around them, the apartment was still in a bit of disarray. boxes yet to be unpacked, walls needing a second coat of paint, but the air felt lighter. A sense of possibility bloomed, fragile but real. Together, they promised to support each other, not just in healing from the past but in building a brighter, more authentic future. A month later, Mama Tola visited their new apartment for the first time. She was greeted by the sound of laughter echoing from the small living room, where Amara and Nia were busy arranging a new bookshelf. The older woman's eyes twinkled with approval as she took in the cozy, cheerful space they had created. "Grandma!" Amara exclaimed, wiping a smudge of dust from her forehead. She hurried over to embrace the wise elder. Nia joined in greeting, her smile warm. Mama Tola nodded, taking in every detail with quiet satisfaction. "I see you two have made a real home here. It fills my heart to see you both thriving." Amara guided her grandmother to a chair. "We still have a lot to figure out, but we're doing okay. We started a small project together, helping women who suspect their partners might be lying or cheating. We call it the Women's Resilience Fund." She motioned to a binder on the table filled with notes, contacts, and budget plans. Nia chimed in, "We want to create a support network. Legal advice, counseling, maybe some emergency funds for those who need to leave toxic relationships. We've been there, and we don't want anyone else to feel alone." Mama Tola's smile widened, creasing her cheeks. "My girls, you're turning your pain into a shield for others. That is the mark of true strength." She glanced around at the partially decorated walls, brimming with hope. "A woman who knows her worth doesn't stay wounded," she said, repeating her mantra. "And you both know your worth now." Amara felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The old heartbreak still flickered in her memory, but she no longer felt consumed by it. She and Nia had found a purpose that transcended personal tragedy. Mama Tola beamed at them, her face full of pride and love. In that moment, the apartment seemed to glow with a quiet, undeniable grace. Months passed, and Amara and Nia poured their energy into developing the Women's Resilience Fund. They held small gatherings in their living room, inviting lawyers, community leaders, and other women who had experienced betrayal or abuse. Word spread, and soon their modest apartment became a hub of activity. Leaflets were distributed across town, detailing available resources and hotlines for those in need. Amara found herself immersed in administrative tasks she had never tackled before: fundraising, grant applications, volunteer coordination. Each step was a learning curve, but with Nia's help and the guidance of Mama Tola, the project began to take shape. One afternoon, a local journalist reached out, having heard rumors of two women who turned a marital scandal into a force for good. She visited their apartment for an interview. "Tell me, what inspired you to create this foundation?" the reporter asked, pen poised above her notepad. Nia smiled softly. "We realized we weren't alone in our experiences. Many women feel trapped by secrets and lies in their relationships. We wanted to create a safe space for them." Amara added, "We also recognize that sometimes what's needed is practical help, like small loans, shelter, or just emotional support. When we each felt isolated and betrayed, it was the kindness of others that saw us through." The reporter nodded, clearly moved. "Any advice for women watching your story unfold?" Amara exchanged a look with Nia, recalling the heartbreak that had led them here. "Seek the truth," she said firmly. "Trust your instincts. And if you've been wronged, remember that your worth isn't defined by someone else's deceit." That evening, the story aired on local media, drawing more attention to the foundation. Offers of support trickled in from unexpected corners. While the emotional scars of their experiences remained, they channeled those scars into empathy and action. The momentum felt unstoppable, and for the first time in a long time, Amara felt a sense of profound purpose. As the foundation gained traction, life settled into a new normal. Amara and Nia threw themselves into their work, forging new friendships and alliances. They were beginning to heal. But one late afternoon, as Amara climbed the stairs to their apartment, she found a familiar figure waiting by the door: Darian. He looked disheveled, as though life had taken a hard toll on him since their last encounter. His eyes carried a desperation she had never seen before. "Amara, please. I need to talk." Her heart lurched at the sight of him, but she maintained composure. "There's nothing left to say." He ran a hand through his unkempt hair. "I lost my job, my family barely speaks to me, and everyone online is calling me a monster. I made mistakes, but don't I deserve a chance to start over?" Memories flashed, their wedding, the cold distance, the phone calls that went unanswered, the revelation of his first marriage. Rage mingled with lingering hurt. "What exactly do you want from me?" she asked, voice cold. "Forgiveness," he whispered, stepping closer. "I want to fix things. I realize how wrong I was. If we could just—" Amara cut him off. "You want me to bury the past and pretend it never happened? No. You lied to me from the start. You tricked Nia. You threatened us. And now you come begging because you have nowhere else to go." He flinched. "I still love you," he insisted, but the words rang hollow. Nia appeared at the top of the stairwell, arms folded. "Darian, you have no place here. We've moved on." He looked between them, face twisted with a mix of regret and anger. "So you two are living together, building a new life, and I'm left with nothing," he spat bitterly. Amara took a steadying breath. "You chose that path. You can't use our compassion as a safety net anymore." She glanced at Nia, then back at Darian. "Please leave. Don't make this harder than it has to be." For a moment, it seemed he might force a confrontation, but then his shoulders sagged. He turned, walking away with slow, defeated steps. Amara unlocked the door, heart pounding from the intensity of the encounter. Inside, Nia placed a supportive hand on her arm. "You okay?" she asked. Amara nodded, though her chest felt tight. "Yes, I think so." She exhaled, letting the tension drain away. Darian's sudden reappearance had stirred old wounds, but this time she didn't feel powerless. Their boundaries were clear, and she had the strength and the right to stand by them. In the weeks following Darian's failed attempt at reconciliation, Amara decided it was time to speak her truth publicly. She penned a heartfelt letter titled, "To the Woman I Used to Be." It was part catharsis, part rallying cry for anyone who felt trapped by lies in their relationships. With Nia's encouragement, she prepared to share it on the Foundation's website and social media channels. The evening she finalized the letter, she sat at the small desk in her room, reading through it one last time. "To the woman I used to be. I remember your innocence, your wide-eyed hope. I remember the morning you put on a wedding gown, believing you were stepping into a fairy tale of everlasting love. I remember how your heart fluttered, trusting every promise. You thought he was your forever. What you didn't know was that forever cannot be built on secrets. You didn't realize that your worth was not in being chosen by a man who lived a double life. Your worth was always there, in your dignity, your kindness, your ability to love deeply. I know you felt betrayed, humiliated, and broken when the truth came out. But look at you now, standing tall, forging new paths, offering a helping hand to other women who've tasted the same betrayal. You are no longer the woman who cowered under lies. You are a woman who rose above them. To the woman I used to be, I send this letter as a testament to growth, strength, and resilience. May any woman who reads these words understand that it's never too late to reclaim your life, to demand the respect you deserve, and to walk away from deceit. No man, no relationship, no heartbreak can ever take away the power you hold within yourself. With unwavering pride and love, Amara. When she finished reading, tears glistened on her cheeks. It was as if she was releasing the past, saying goodbye to the naive version of herself who had once believed in a man so thoroughly unworthy of her trust. She clicked publish, watching the screen as her words went live. Within hours, comments and messages began to pour in, echoing the same sentiment: gratitude, empathy, and solidarity. Women who had endured similar heartbreak wrote that her words gave them courage to leave toxic situations. Others lauded her transformation from victim to advocate. The letter went viral, reaching thousands who resonated with her journey. Nia joined her, reading the supportive messages, tears of joy shining in her eyes. They hugged, both overwhelmed by the outpouring of solidarity. It felt like the final chapter in a story of betrayal was closing, opening the door to a narrative of hope, empowerment, and fresh beginnings. In that moment, Amara realized that her wedding day, once the happiest moment of her life, was now overshadowed by something far more meaningful. She had become the architect of her own destiny, forging strength from pain, and transforming a personal tragedy into a beacon of courage for others. The betrayal that once shattered her was now the cornerstone of a renewed life, a testament that love, and above all, self-love, could triumph over the darkest secrets.